Good morning. Thank you for joining us live here on India Today's social media handles. I'm Akshita Nandagopal joining you this Monday morning with all the top stories that we're tracking. Our focus particularly is on what's happening in the city of Chennai, because you've had a weekend of very heavy rainfall in the city. It's brought back those haunting memories of what happened a few years ago back in 2015. So in this video, I'll just quickly sum up for you what the situation first is currently in the city of Chennai. As I mentioned, over the weekend, we saw very heavy rainfall. Fortunately, last night and actually last evening itself, there was some respite really from the rain. So last few hours, there's been very small, intermittent showers, largely, drizzles that have been reported. So that's helped largely in ensuring that some of the water recedes and also in helping the authorities to work overtime to pump out the water in low-lying areas. But the situation was very worrying on Sunday. Because, and let me just tell you how much rainfall was recorded. That will tell you how grave the situation was. 200 mm of rainfall was reported in a matter of hours. Really, it was absolute mayhem, because immediately you saw flooding being reported. And because all year round, there's been heavy rainfall in Chennai. You've seen also that all the reservoirs are nearing full capacity, and it's only November, which means that usually it's in December when you see the heaviest rainfall in Tamil Nadu, in the coastal areas and in Chennai. And already you're looking at all of these reservoirs nearing full capacity, which is why there's a concern that things could get very bad in Chennai. Right now, because of the respite that you've seen through last night and even now, there's been efforts really being taken by the administration, and successful efforts to pump out water. There are still many low-lying areas which are inundated. Velachery more or less has been cleared out, and this is for all the Chennaiites who are watching. In some parts of T Nagar, you've still got a lot of water, so there's work being done on that front to pump it out. Places like Vyasarpadi, where you saw the subway completely being inundated, it's taking a bit more time in these parts to really pump out the water, because there's a lot of water stagnation and it's not really naturally draining off anymore, because all of your water bodies are also full. In other parts, particularly close to OMR and the likes, there are some reports coming in of inundation, but looks like more or less things are right now under control. As far as the forecast is concerned, there's a red alert that's been issued for coastal parts of Tamil Nadu, that includes Chennai, and that red alert continues for the next 5 days. Today, while there's no forecast for rain, and that's the good news, the bad news is that tomorrow there is expectation that again heavy rains will resume, because there is a low pressure area that's moving towards Chennai and coastal parts of North Tamil Nadu in particular. So these areas will see a lot of heavy rainfall. As it is last night, while Chennai got some sort of a breather and some reprieve from the rains, you had neighboring areas, Trichy, Villupuram, all of them still being badly affected, with very heavy rainfall being reported in these areas. Schools and colleges have been shut in Chennai and all of these districts that I mentioned. Government offices have declared a public holiday as well. Private offices have been advised by the government to ensure work from home when possible. So those are the steps that's been taken by the administration. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin was out and about yesterday, taking stock of the situation on the ground. He was seen going to all of the low-lying areas with his officials at hand to find out what are the challenges they are facing. Prime Minister Modi has also spoken to Chief Minister Stalin. There's been a detailed discussion on how the centre also can help the government to brave over this crisis. It's not just the heavy rainfall that's a concern. The problem in Chennai, as I mentioned earlier, is that all the reservoirs are running full capacity. Chembrabakam, Pundi, Pural, these are reservoirs which are key to Chennai, and all of them almost are nearing full capacity. 2015, what had happened was that you had many spells, such as this one that happened over the weekend in Chennai. It started from November, went all till December, and that's why things got so bad in 2015. And it was the release of water from all of these reservoirs and these lakes that led to this further crisis in the city many years ago. Now, unfortunately, and I don't want to spread panic here, while you've got the situation slightly better today, the worry is that if it continues to rain and not record rainfall, even if it's a slight amount of heavy rains, these reservoirs could get full, which means that water will have to be released simultaneously in intervals by the officials. And that's where really the concern comes in. And the fact that it's only November and already we're talking about this kind of rainfall in the city of Chennai. So all of our prayers and all of you out there, please ensure that you continue to hope and pray for the people of Chennai, that they tide over this crisis and that it doesn't get from bad to worse right now in the city. That's just about now coming out of the aftermath of what happened over the weekend. That's our top story here on India Today, and you can catch all the latest ground reports by my colleagues who are on the ground in different parts of Chennai to tell you what the situation is today, comparing it to yesterday and comparing it to 2015. Let me also tell you about what's happening here in the national capital. If I could take you out of the studio right now, you'd see how terrible the situation is. You can't see beyond a point because of the smog in Delhi, in the national capital region, which means Noida, Gurugram. All of these areas are very, very bad. The AQI, the air quality index, the last I checked, was about severe, and it's in the severe category, which is very, very harmful for all of us. If you live in Delhi, you know what I'm talking about. Each of us feels it. We either have a dry cough or we've got a sore throat or some problem or the other. And that's all because of the air pollution that we're breathing in and forced to with no other option. The biggest contributor to the pollution right now is stubble burning. It always is at this time of the year. And this time too, the stubble burning in neighboring parts, in Punjab, in Haryana, is costing us dearly. And the fact that you've got certain environmental conditions in Delhi NCR that contributes further to the pollution. For example, you don't have a lot of wind moving around in this area, so it's very stagnant, which is why the pollution essentially stays like a cloud around this entire area, making it very, very difficult for the smoke to really go away. Through the day, you will see a very, very gloomy condition in Delhi NCR, and that's because of the smog. Add to that several other concerns now. Unfortunately, the bad news for Delhi doesn't just end with the bad air or the toxic air. It's toxic water as well. There have been horrifying pictures that have emerged of what the Yamuna River looks like currently. You see this in Bengaluru also, that we reported over the years, of the Belandur Lake having a lot of froth, toxic froth. That's the situation in the Yamuna as well. And that has led to a lot of environmental concerns. Again, something that you see at this time of the year. Right now, it's Chhat Puja, which means that in the morning, you had people, devotees, actually taking a dip in the Yamuna River amid the toxic froth. And there have been a lot of worry and concerns about what health conditions and how detrimental this could be for one's health. And this is the water that's really pumped for many people for consumption also in the national capital. That too has been hit in the last few days. Over the weekend, in many parts of Delhi, South Delhi, East Delhi, Northeast Delhi, there were problems of water shortage. This is because, according to the government, the ammonia levels in the Yamuna have gone up, which means that the treatment plants couldn't also work in full capacity. They were working at 50% capacity. So we had a lot of reports that came in yesterday as well as the day before of water shortage, taps running dry in many homes. Now, the government is assured that from today, things will be back to normal. But considering the pollution levels in the Yamuna right now, it is very worrying and could take some time really for that kind of pollution to clear up. It's also an SOS to all of us out here that we really need to do something to address this crisis of pollution, not just in the air, but also in the water now. So in Delhi, if you live in the national capital, you've got a number of issues to be concerned about. The onset of winter, while we all enjoy the weather, also means these many crippling problems of pollution. Now, the other story that we're running here on India Today is an analysis of the T20 World Cup. Unfortunately, we're out of the running for the World Cup. I know a lot of us were saying, and I saw this a lot on social media as well yesterday, praises, prayers heaping in for Afghanistan, hoping that they would pull off a miracle and defeat New Zealand, which would have kept India's chances of being in the T20 World Cup semis alive. That unfortunately didn't happen. New Zealand sealed a win over Afghanistan, and that meant that the Kiwis essentially knocked us out of the T20 World Cup. Hard luck, we didn't of course do very well, but we were hoping that with these permutations and combinations of other teams perhaps doing well or not doing well, we'd get in. That's not going to happen. Today there's a match between India and Namibia, but it's essentially just a formality because we're out of the running. We no longer have any chance of making it to the semis. So you can get an analysis of how really the men in blue performed through the T20 World Cup, the hits and the many misses here on India Today as well. That's all we have time for in this broadcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Tomorrow I'll be again